All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. We are recording on a Monday afternoon. Today we're going to talk about Chiefs Steelers, Ravens-Texans, and Seahawks Bears. Let's start off with Chiefs Steelers, Drew, on Christmas, 1 p.m. Eastern. Chiefs are 2.5-point favorites at Pittsburgh. The total is 43.5. What is most interesting to me about this game is that I think Patrick Mahomes is coming off perhaps the best game of his season, looking the most Mahomes-ish that he has all year. In that game against the Texans, he had a PFF grade of almost 90. He was scrambling like a madman. The ankle seemingly fine. Do you think that with Hollywood Brown now in the mix to go with Worthy and Hopkins and Kelsey and co, that Mahomes now, we can expect him to be, the guy that he was in the playoffs last season going forward?
Yeah, it was an interesting game because the Texans defense was a good test, and you're right. Like the fact that it now feels like they have an embarrassment of riches just in terms of bodies to work with, and Hollywood Brown certainly is is a nice upgrade. But at the same time, like there's now a lot of mouths to feed, and it's not clear, what their identity is offensively, and we're awfully late in the season. So I'm not 100% sold that this is just a smoothly oiled Chiefs offensive machine, despite the fact that you're right, Mahomes did have his best game. And that said, also it felt like with the ankle injury, like his mechanics were just a little bit off. Like he was missing a little bit of touch on the pass, particularly in the first half, where there could have been some smash plays that just broke open the game. But it doesn't really matter. He's still the most kind of feared player on the field at any given time. And I think ultimately the Steelers defense does not match up especially well against the Chiefs offense here. And I think Mahomes probably continues to, kind of peak into the postseason here, and is going to be an extremely difficult out once we get to the postseason. And the Chiefs win, which looks likely on Christmas in Pittsburgh, would effectively, would specifically clinch their 1 seed, which sends the playoffs in the AFC through Kansas City again. But to me, the story that I'm the most excited to talk about and try to understand here from a handicapping standpoint, what do you currently rate the Steelers defense? And how much is the absence of Chris Jones going to make this more of an offensive shootout than any type of defensive standoff? I think this total looks strikingly low, considering the state of the Steelers defense currently and Chris Jones potentially unavailable.
Yeah, especially if Pickens is able to give it a go, which it seems like he probably will at this point based on just being able to be limited in practice early in the week. I think the thing with the Steelers is that this defense, while less extreme, it's kind of a version of the Cowboys defense of the past few years where they're just so dependent on their D-line getting pressure. And if they don't, then the corner situation just isn't very good at all. It wasn't good to begin with, and now they're banged up too. So I think the sneaky thing out of that Steelers-Ravens game is that, to me, TJ Watt just didn't look right at all. No. He didn't seem to have any explosion. He had a 52 PFF grade. For context on the season, he has a 92 PFF grade. He missed multiple tackles. You just didn't feel TJ Watt at all in the game. And if that is going to be the case, again, on a short rest where he won't have had much time for the ankle to get better. Now, TJ Watt's a madman. He may just come out and sack Mahomes twice and look fine. That's perfectly within the range of outcomes. But you certainly have to bake in that he may not be 100%. And if that D-line isn't wreaking havoc, particularly in this matchup, because that is the biggest weakness of the Chiefs offense, clearly is the O-line and the left tackle position where Mahomes has been under siege all year. Like, if the Steelers want to win this game, their defensive line needs to be the defining aspect of the game. But without Chris Jones, where does this Chiefs defense rank in the league? Because I think it's certainly a bottom 10 pass defense.
Absolutely. Without Chris Jones, I would put them squarely in sort of the 16 range, which is this is that, and even more than that, the type of pass plays that they've been getting burned on have been exactly what Russell Wilson has been living on with the the moon balls that he's allowing his receivers to go up and win 50-50s. Like the Chiefs haven't won a 50-50, I haven't felt like, on a deep pass down the field since like week 4. This is specifically where they have been ailing, and I think we're in for some fireworks in this game. I think this is one where I don't even just like over 43.5. I'm going to swing on some alt overs where this could be, you need to get to 34, 35 points if you're going to win this game if you're the Steelers. I know I don't disagree that if their D line steps up and is hugely influential to this outcome, then they have a better chance to win. But I don't think that's likely, given their short turnaround, the physical game they just played against the Ravens, and potential limitations of the injured TJ Watt. So I think really and truly this needs to be kind of looked at more as one of the higher scoring games of the week. And I think if the Chiefs defense steps up in Chris Jones's absence and is awesome, then I'll eat my words, but I kind of need to see it to believe it.
I mean, the Chiefs defense hasn't really been good for 2 months, even with Chris Jones, at least in terms of pass defense, where ever since Jalen Watson has gone down, it's just been a huge struggle. I mean, a team that from last year loses Jalen Watson and L'Jarius Sneed, with Watson being injured and Sneed obviously being gone. They just haven't. It just seems like they haven't been able to fix that yet, and they're just kind of getting by with patchwork and riding a little bit of luck in these close outcomes. But yeah, this is also a huge match for a huge game for Defensive Player of the Year, where if Watt is silent again, as he was against the Ravens, and the Steelers lose, and then all of a sudden they're a 10-6 wild card, and TJ Watt has 11.5 sacks in 17 games and doesn't make an impact, in the defining stretch of the season, then I think it becomes a lot more open. But the issue is like, who? Open for who? It's really just Surtain needing to have a big game against Jamar Chase and the Bengals. Another residual effect of this game that also helps Surtain and creates DPOI leverage is that if the Chiefs win, that means that Patrick Surtain gets to play Carson Wentz next week. And if the Chiefs lose, not only does Watt's equity go up with the Steelers win, but that means that Patrick Surtain will play Patrick Mahomes next week, which is not ideal. So a lot of things happening there. I think the market has actually priced that award pretty reasonably, where I think it is like 70 to 75% Watt, 20 to 25% Surtain, and then the rest just goes to chaos, where I don't know. There's still worlds where, and obviously there's a huge outliers, but Myles Garrett has 3 sacks on the weekend and becomes the sack leader. Then it's not out of the realm that he could win. It's very late for him and that team, but there's just a dearth of other candidates. Like, is there a third person who can win that award?
I mean, I'm not sure why Danielle Hunter isn't getting more consideration. He's probably in the mix for pressure and sack leader when the dust settles. But I mean, like it feels like I'm taking crazy pills, because our handicap, I feel like, was right all along, that the market was way too sure this was going to be TJ Watt, and yet none of the runners have stepped forward. Third choice right now at DraftKings is Nick Benito. What? Yeah. Like, get out of here. That's insane. And I mean, I think ultimately, like, my general sense is that there is a, because you brought it up, like, if the Steelers lose this game, like, are they even playing Watt in week 18? Probably not. You need to get him right for the playoffs. Like, he gets the week off there, because I guess if the Steelers lose and the Ravens win, all of a sudden the week 18 means nothing to Pittsburgh, and you got to get your guys right. So, I definitely would, tend to expect that chaos is coming in this market. And you brought it up last week, TJ Watt, people were talking about he's not the best player on his own defense with the way that Cam Hayward was playing. Like, well, if you watch that Ravens game pretty closely, was he the 5th, 6th best player on the defense? It felt like, Minka Fitzpatrick felt more impactful. Certainly Highsmith had more impactful plays. That Herbig has mattered a ton at times when he's been available this year. So yeah, it does not feel right that it's just going to go to him by default. But Yeah, the player to be named later to steal the DPOY doesn't feel right.
No, it's all like the guys who have the statistical kindling to win the award are guys like, Nick Bonito and Andrew Van Ginkel, and they're just not going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Like someone like Hunter or Anderson, I think if they'd had a huge game against the Chiefs and gave themselves a bit more runway, then maybe, but I think it's too late for them. Even like if Micah Parsons had like an extra 2 sacks and was in position to like go tear down, but he's just like he missed 4 games and the team's going to miss the playoffs, and they're just not. He just doesn't have the case. I think that the third most likely guy to win is still Garrett, where if Garrett could get the sack title and close with, but for him to actually win the award, I think he would need minimum 4 sacks in the next 2 games, probably 5 to actually win it. So it just feels like it'll be Watt is the default incumbent. He's got just strong enough of a case where leads the league in forced fumbles and I think still tackles for loss. And he's third in PFF edge rusher grade behind Hutchinson and Garrett, who's gone past him now there. So he just has just enough. The Steelers have a good defense overall, but I think that if Watt is quiet against the Chiefs and Surtain has a notable game against the Bengals, then I think Surtain will win. But it's just hard for a shutdown corner to have loud moments because by definition, like they just don't throw at him. And I don't think that stasis is going to be enough for Surtain. I think he actually needs to do something, whether that's a loud locking up Jamar Chase performance or a pick or a key pass breakup at the end of a win. Like he needs a moment because I don't think that he's done enough to win, but we'll see. That is one of the awards that one of the few awards that I think still does have some suspense in it. All right. The holidays just got merrier with the Premier League festive fixtures on NBC, USA, and streaming on Peacock. Today through January 6th, we're bringing you the greatest gifts, magical moments, and holiday cheer. Don't miss a moment of the drama and excitement from the best players in the world. Okay, Ravens at Texans, Christmas 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Ravens now 4-point favorites, bouncing 4 to 4.5. The total is 46.5. Obviously, there'll be no Tank Dell in this game. Texans been dealing with a slew of injuries lately, and their passing game very compromised with no Dell. No Diggs, obviously, and it is very much the Nico Collins show with, I guess, Dalton Schultz as the Robin to Nico's Batman. I thought that Stroud against the Chiefs, I thought that was, statistically it wasn't amazing, but I thought that was the best that he had looked all season as well as Mahomes, where that was the closest, like, all right, this is the CJ Stroud I remember from last seain. Do you think that anything specific changed for Stroud in the Texans offense, or do you think that he just played a good game?
I think he played a good game, but I think all of the hallmarks and all of the issues of the Bobby Slowick experience that has been dissatisfying this year were also on display. Like it felt like a good Stroud game because the third in a millions, he converted a couple. And it's like you can't live like this. You really can't. And I think this Ravens defense is coming on at the right time, and this is probably a step backwards for him, unfortunately. And a ton of it, I think, comes down to Tank Dell not being available. Like Nico Collins is still the most important part of the passing game, and his availability for some reason, like I think that I'm not expecting him to be limited, but it has not felt like since he's come back from the hamstring injury that he's been as able to generate separation, which is kind of keeping Stroud from targeting him as aggressively. I think this is kind of a bad matchup for him in particular because Kyle Hamilton is playing back to the level we expected, and I would just in general not expect that there's any hope for the running game here for the Texans up against the absolutely stout Ravens run defense. And then that turns into, okay, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 15. Good luck, CJ. Go do something heroic. And he may be able to do it enough to sustain some drives to score some points. But I don't think the Texans defense has much of a chance against this Ravens offense right now. So I would say this is pretty clearly Ravens or pass. My fair total in this one is 46. So I think ultimately the angle is just bet the Ravens. Market has been kind of bouncing all over the place in this dead zone between 4 and 6. Some places looking at 5.5 right now. I think this trends towards closer to 6 as we get closer to kickoff, and I think my hope that we were going to get some cheap Ravens in the playoffs is starting to feel like a pipe dream. A less than inspiring performance on Christmas night would obviously, throw a little cold water on them. But Market is getting hot on this team right now, and I agree with it.
Yep. Let's talk about MVP for a sec, because I think this is more interesting now than it was looking like it would be a week ago. I think that if Lamar loses to Houston, I think that's a wrap pretty much. If he's 10-6, I think that's good night, even if he plays really well. I think that if Josh Allen balls out in a win against the Jets, that is probably good night for the award too. What is most interesting, and also I think that if Lamar plays really well in a win against Houston and Allen loses to the Jets, then I think Lamar will become the guy and the favorite to win the award. What is most interesting to me is perhaps something that's closer to median outcomes than that extreme, which is what if Lamar plays really well in a win, just as he did against the Steelers, kind of replicates that performance against the Texans, which I think is kind of reasonable to project, given that's what he basically does every week. And then what if Allen is like par again against the Jets, or like par in terms of, like slightly better than he was against the Pats, which I think was a kind of bad game for him. What if he's 190 passing yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick, Bills win, 24-20, fairly uninspiring type of performance? Do you think that is all Allen needs to do? Or do you think that he needs to actively play well again and have a loud performance?
I actually think he's even more entrenched than you're setting up, unfortunately. I think he actually has to just either not play because of injury or because they're putting him on ice, because which is, again, like, I don't know 100% what the thought process is in that building, or how they are viewing the hand injury that he had yesterday, or if they're even classifying it as injury. They may be sticking to their story that this was a Charlie horse. But the reality is Chiefs win, and the Texans aren't playing for anything either of the last 2 weeks. They sued the Bills. The Bills, obviously, you don't want to lose so much ground that someone catches you from behind, but I think that's pretty low likelihood here. So we may ultimately just, he may be done for the season, regular season at least, and I don't think anyone should be super surprised that that's the case. Even if he is out there against the Jets, like, then are they going to be using a super aggressive passing game in this one? Are you putting all your good plays on tape right before the playoffs, or are you gonna try to save some stuff for the more high leverage games here? There's just not a lot at stake here for the Bills, and so I'm not sure you're gonna get any type of clinching type of performance from him. But that said, like, he's probably either going to have to miss altogether or go out and play poorly to fumble the bag at this point, which is annoying. But you said it yesterday. This just kind of feels like everybody wants it to be Josh Allen's season, and he's the biggest story, and so it is what it is. It's probably over. I will go to war with. If I had my imaginary vote would be for Lamar Jackson this year. My imaginary vote would not have been on for Lamar Jackson last year, and he won with almost unanimously. So it is what it is. But I think this, to me at least, looks like an opportunity to to clinch if he just trots out there and doesn't have 3 picks.
Yeah, interesting. I'm more bullish on Lamar than that. I was pleasantly surprised by a lot of the discourse over the past 24 hours being from voters and voter types being that not that Josh Allen has this sewed up at all, but this is actually quite close. Because, I get that everyone wants to vote for Allen and people would prefer that he win the MVP, and that, to the point that we made yesterday, that people would be more comfortable with Lamar Jackson having 2 MVPs and Josh Allen having 1 than it being 3-0. But the numbers are getting to the point where it's just kind of not quite undeniable, but kind of undeniable, where if you just blank resumed these guys, Lamar would win in a boat race. And I get that Allen has some statistical advantages, like he's narrowly edging out Lamar in QBR. He's narrowly edging out Lamar in EPA per play, though a lot of that is yak generated, albeit a lot of it too is Allen's ability to avoid sacks, which is very important. But I think that the numbers that MVP voters typically weight towards are now so heavily in favor of Lamar that I think Allen, if this gap widens and Lamar has another awesome game and Allen has another kind of meh game, then I think it will be quite close. I don't think this is done yet. And also, like, the issue is the Jets defense is so banged up. Like, Quinton Williams didn't play. Sauce Gardner came out with a hamstring. They probably just don't have the horses, though. You would have said the same thing about the Pats defense. Allen seems to struggle in these divisional matchups against the Pats and the Jets, at least the past couple of years. So I think there is still room for some weirdness. And we'll see as well with just what's going on with his right arm and hand, and if that is any issue in the game. But yeah, I think that this is still a race. I think it's like 80% Allen, 20% Lamar. So I don't think there's really a bet to be made. But I don't think it's 90-10. I don't think it's 95-5 or anything like that.
So Josh Allen is 26 touchdowns, passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's not spectacular, but the 6 interceptions for him, I think, is what really has people just falling all over themselves. He's finally doing what we all said he needed to do, which was stop turning the ball over. Like, okay, whatever. Lamar Jackson has 4 and 37 passing touchdowns. This is absurd.
And adds more value to Russia.
Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
Josh Allen's 10th in passer rating, and Lamar is first, which again, I don't really care that much about, but voters do.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think ultimately Patriots dropped two picks in that game, man. They got one, but they dropped 2 other ones that were right there. And if that's a 3-pick game, then now I'm feeling a lot more like this is wide open. But he needs to get. Yeah.
Khalil Shakir also dropped like a 50-yard touchdown pass. That's true. Which kind of evened it out a little bit.
That's a good point. But I think ultimately, if Lamar Jackson finishes with 40 touchdowns and 4 picks, which it's like he has to continue to play clean, and it's exciting, and it might not happen, but my goodness, I'm trying to imagine any season that's as good as what he's had that hasn't ended with an MVP, because it's
and I think a lot of the
all-time top 5 type of stuff he's approaching.
Yeah, I think a lot of the hang-up as well around the discourse has been the idea that Allen is in the hunt for the 1 seed while Lamar is in a 5 seed or whatever. But now it is very plausible that after Christmas, Lamar Jackson will be in a 3 seed to Allen's 2 seed. And in the head-to-head matchup, Lamar trucked him for whatever that is worth, which I don't think is worth much. Though some voters have brought that up, the fact that when these two guys did play against each other, Lamar absolutely stomped him. So, I think it's... Yeah, I don't think it's done. I think Allen is very likely to win. I think the market is actually reasonably priced on this, where, reasonably priced, that by definition is something that I wouldn't bet or really, I wouldn't actively want to bet or lay at current prices. And I think that, minus 400 plus 400 is about the fair range in terms of what's going to happen. So something to watch. I'll just tell you what, if Lamar balls out on Christmas, then Allen is going to feel like he's, 2 bad plays away from losing MVP against the Jets, I think. So there will be some suspense. All right.
I got one super, super quick question for you. Are you worried at all about the temporal factor where Christmas is on Wednesday, and by the time that the week is over, like, a lot of what happens on Christmas might be forgotten?
Yeah, no, I think that the way this kind of stuff works is that even if it's not ultra fresh, it kind of just gets entrenched, like the overarching notion. So if Lamar Jackson plays really well on Christmas, I think that most voters will think that, okay, Allen has to play well against the Jets. Like, now Lamar has made this a close thing, and it'll be MVP is going to be in Josh Allen's hands no matter what happens on Christmas. But I do think that he can fumble it against the Jets, and I'm not sure that if he has the same game he did against the Patriots and Lamar balls out, then I think Lamar will win MVP. And I could be wrong on that, but I think that 1 touchdown, 1 pick for Allen, while Lamar is awesome again, I think at that point the numbers and the recency of the Lions, Rams, and Niners stuff has faded away a little bit and been replaced by 2 subpar performances. at that point, I think Lamar can do it. But yeah, he's got to beat the Texans first. All right, it's a critical matchup in the nation's capital with NFC playoff implications on Sunday Night Football. Catch the Falcons as they travel north to face Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. Coverage of the matchup begins at 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock.
As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up to BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code BETEDGE. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code BETEDGE when you sign up. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Okay, before we get out of here, Seahawks Bears Thursday Night Football. The Seahawks are 3.5-point favorites at the Bears. The total is 43.5. Drew, I thought that the Geno game against the Vikings was like the definitive, the seminal game of Geno Smith in the archives, where a lot of passing volume, a lot of passing yards, a lot of passing touchdowns, and then he throws 2 picks. One, because he doesn't see the linebacker dropping him back into coverage, which he will never see, or at least he goes every game. It feels like he throws one of those. He had one that was comically dropped, and then one that Dallas Turner dropped back and got the pick. And then another pick because there was confusion about the route that DK Metcalf was running at the end. So I thought that was just the full Geno experience. Gives you enough to win, some agonizing mistakes, and now he goes up against the Bears, who I think the most interesting thing about the Bears is how bad do you think this defense is right now? That a unit that was, finished last year as one of the best defenses in football, was okay to start this year, and now seems to have just completely fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, it turns out that Matt Eberflus was doing something. He was coordinating the defense, and now they feel very uncoordinated. And I think ultimately the line here is fair. If anything, I'm playing Seattle. I was hoping for a 3. The fact that this is 3.5 is, okay. Well, Seattle's now you can't just get away with the win in Chicago. You have to go and really make a statement. And I think they're capable of doing that, particularly with the emergence of JSN, and, DK Metcalf looks healthy to me. So this passing attack should have lots of opportunity for explosive plays. Bears defense should be right now rated as bottom 5. The passing defense is the biggest problem of the defense overall. You had one kind of some bright spots in the primetime game against the Vikings, but that feels like a long time ago now after watching the Lions pretty much do whatever they wanted in that game on Sunday at home. So yeah, I think the problems with Chicago are pretty painfully obvious, and I know that there's going to be a lot made of Caleb Williams' rookie season, which I think ultimately has just kind of been a fine rookie season, not what you expect from a guy who is a generational talent, presumptive no doubter at 1.01. But I think this is a bad matchup for him with an offensive line that is starting to struggle mightily and lost another one of their most important players, if not their most important player at left tackle. Seattle's pass rush should be very, very effective in this contest. And then on the flip side, Seattle's offensive line is holding up well enough, I think, to let Geno Smith do the full Geno Smith experience. And if there's no, kind of standout players able to capitalize on his couple of mistakes he makes every game, then this should be a Seattle blowout. So Seahawks are pass, and I think ultimately I'm gonna wait for best price. Hope that there's a little bit of Chicago money coming in. I don't know why it would, but maybe it will. And at that point, I'm laying it with the Seahawks.
What do you make of the Seahawks defense now that the shine has come off a little bit? They had the 2 awesome weeks in a row and then got kind of trucked by a couple of NFC North quarterbacks in, well, it was more just the Packers offense in general. And then Sam Darnold, I thought was magnificent against the Seahawks. It wasn't maybe his best statistical games. There were incompletions, but Darnold looked like, yeah, I'm not saying that he is, but he looked like a top 10 quarterback in that game where it wasn't just the scheme stuff. It was the ability to kind of create in chaos, out of structure. And like the guy's just got a sick arm. Like he just layers the ball in there on those 15, 20-yard passes. So thought it was an incredibly impressive performance from Darnold. It's still just insane that Sam Darnold's 13-2 with this Vikings team. It's just ridiculous given they had a win total of 6.5. But do you think this Seahawks defense has kind of been exposed a little bit the past 2 weeks and is more just a merely slightly above average unit than the type of elite defense I was looking at for a while?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair way to couch it. And I don't know that I love the term exposed as much as, like, you know, when you're a defense, you're always kind of at the whim of your opposing quarterbacks. And they had Jordan Love and Sam Darnold play very, very well against them. Sam Darnold was making just beautiful anticipatory throws and putting it on a postage stamp. Like it was, he was just having a day. And there's nothing the Seahawks defense was going to be able to do about it. And when and I think actually the thing that I kind of took away from the Seattle defensive side that disappointed me from yesterday's performance was the fact that pass rush wasn't able to get much going. I thought with the state of the Vikings offensive line, there was maybe an angle for them to be effective, and they really didn't do much. So I think ultimately this is that part of it is what I'm going to be keying on most, because this is an even better chance. Like this offensive line and the way Caleb Williams holds onto the ball, like they should have 5-6 sacks in this one and be very, very disruptive. Leonard Williams, I would love to see him kind of reclaim some of the form we saw as he was wrecking the Cardinals and kind of really saving the Seahawks season on his, by himself. But I think this is the sort of game where I don't mind laying a 3.5 on the road, as I feel like every advantage really ticks heavily into Seattle's favor.
Yep. Last question before we get out of here, off topic of this game, but related to Darnold. If you're just like an average, generic, bad team, say you're the Raiders, and you have an okay O-line, not great, but not a catastrophe like the Giants, and you have Brock Bowers and Joby Myers, and you had another receiver, would you rather have going forward as your quarterback Sam Darnold or Brock Purdy?
Oof. I think given the choice, I'd just give me a Kevin O'Connell. We'll figure it out. Honestly, I think between Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy, though, right now, I would still take Brock. Some of it's compensation and age.
All that
some
being
of it
equal,
is.
I guess.
Some of it's. Yeah, some of it's the highs we saw from Purdy last year, and then combine that with the fact that it looks to me at least like he has taken his game to the next level this year, while at the same time not winning games, so nobody's recognizing it. Like I think Purdy's a little bit of a sleeping giant in the right, with the right system. So I very, very slightly in Purdy.
Yeah, I would take Purdy as well, because I think that he's had 2 and a bit years in the NFL. He's still very young and has upside to grow. And then secondly, he was, it was minus 250 to win MVP in week 16 last year. And then I think has added more scrambling and escapability to his game. So but it's more of a discussion than I thought it would be. And Darnold was awesome against the Seahawks. So it'll be interesting to see how his free agency unfolds. All right, we are done for today. Don't forget to check out NBCSports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks for those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. For myself and Drew, we'll see you soon.